The planet Varlik 7 was a cold and desolate place covered in endless plains of blue grass and towering crystal spires. It was here, under the violet skies, that she was abandoned. The alien girl had no name, no home, and no family. Her species, the Zorathians, had left her behind as a child for reasons unknown. She had survived by scavenging, hiding from predators, and drinking from the strange underground springs. She had never known kindness, never felt warmth, until she met the human. Captain Elias Walker was a scout for the United Earth Exploration Fleet. His job was to find habitable planets, catalog resources, and assess threats. Varlik 7 had been marked as uninhabited, a lifeless rock with little to offer, but Elias had learned long ago that space was full of surprises. As he walked through the alien landscape, his exosuit scanning the environment, something unusual caught his eye. A small figure, no taller than a human child, crouched behind a jagged crystal. She was thin, her purple skin marred by scars, and her large golden eyes watched him with both fear and curiosity. Then something unexpected happened. His dog, a golden retriever named Max, bounded forward, tail wagging. Max had been his companion for years, a loyal friend through the loneliness of space. Before Elias could react, Max reached the alien girl and gently sniffed her. The girl flinched but did not run. Elias held his breath, watching. Max let out a soft bark and licked the girl's hand. Her eyes widened. She hesitated, then slowly, cautiously placed her hand on Max's head. For the first time in her life, she felt warmth. Elias knelt beside them. "Hey there, little one," he said gently. "Are you alone?" The girl did not speak. She did not seem to understand his words, but she did not pull away when he reached out a hand. Max sat beside her, his tongue hanging out in a happy pant. Elias activated his translator, but it returned nothing. She was from an unknown species. That made things complicated. Still, the fear in her eyes was universal. "Come with us," Elias said softly. "You don't have to be alone." She hesitated, glancing at Max. The dog wagged his tail again, and that seemed to make the decision for her. She stood on shaky legs and followed them back to the ship. The UEEF ship Endeavour was a small research vessel meant for solo missions. Inside, Elias set up a safe space for the girl in one of the empty quarters. She sat on the floor, staring at everything in silent wonder. Max lay beside her, resting his head on her lap. Elias tried offering her food, but she didn't recognize any of it. He carefully demonstrated by eating himself, then handing her a ration bar. She sniffed it, hesitated, and then took a small bite. Her eyes widened in shock. It was the first real food she had ever tasted. Days passed, and the girl slowly opened up. She still did not speak, but she watched Elias and Max closely, mimicking their actions. She followed Max everywhere, learning from the dog how to trust. One day, as Elias sat in the cockpit, he heard a small voice behind him. Max." He turned, surprised. The girl pointed at the golden retriever, repeating the name with determination. Max wagged his tail happily. Elias smiled. "That's right, Max." She pointed at Elias next, tilting her head. He tapped his chest. "Elias." She frowned, struggling with the unfamiliar sounds. E-li-as. His heart clenched. She was trying. She wanted to connect. "You need a name too," he said thoughtfully. He glanced at the star map, then back at her. "How about Nova?" She blinked, then slowly she smiled. Nova. Over time, Nova learned. She wasn't just an abandoned child. She was intelligent, curious, and eager. She absorbed human language quickly, though she still struggled with some words. She loved to tinker with ship equipment, often watching Elias work and mimicking his actions. More than anything, she loved Max. The dog had become her guardian, her friend, her teacher. Through him, she had learned trust, warmth, and love. One day as they sat together, Elias asked, "Do you remember your people?" Nova looked down, her expression darkening. "They left me." Elias nodded. "I won't let that happen again." She looked up at him, eyes shimmering. "Promise?" He reached out and squeezed her hand. promise. The day came when the Endeavor received a distress signal. As a Rathian ship was nearby, stranded and in need of assistance, Elias knew it was likely Nova's people. He hesitated, uncertain if she would want to see them. When he told her, she froze. Then, after a long silence, she whispered, "I want to see them." Elias piloted the ship to the stranded vessel. When they arrived, a group of tall, regal-looking Zarathians greeted them. Their leader, a silver-skinned woman, stared in shock when she saw Nova. "You survived," she murmured. Nova stood tall, Max by her side. "You left me." The Zarathians shifted uncomfortably. "You were weak, a burden. We had no choice." Elias clenched his fists, but before he could speak, Nova did. "I am not weak," she said firmly. "I am Nova, and I am not alone." She reached down, running her fingers through Max's fur. The dog pressed against her side protectively. The Zarathians exchanged glances. "You would choose them over your own kind." Nova looked at Elias, then at Max. She smiled. "They are my kind." Elias put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe them anything." She nodded. "I know." Without another word, they turned and left. As the airlock sealed behind them, Nova let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She looked up at Elias. "Can we go home now?" Elias smiled. "Yeah, kid, let's go home." And as they flew into the stars, Max curled up beside Nova, his tail wagging. She was no longer abandoned. She was family.